Welcome to the Focus and Chill podcast, where we discuss productivity tactics that work for neurodivergent individuals.
Every episode, we interview guests with lived experience of neurodiversity who also have a solid productivity and habit game, and pass the learnings on to you, our wise and benevolent audience.
We're your hosts, Jeremy and Joey.
I'm Joey, and I coach creatives to get moving on their most ambitious projects through the power of solid habits and strong focus. I'm also a perpetual student of psychology and perpetually on a quest to a one-armed chin-up.
And I'm Jeremy, a neurospicy software developer turned startup founder, building the Focus Bear app to help people with ADHD and autism thrive at work. My cool party trick is leaving parties early so I can get to sleep in time for my 2-hour-long morning routine. The Focus and Chill podcast is brought to you by Focus Bear, a focus enhancement app for ADHDers. That's adults with both combined autism and ADHD. I'm Jeremy, I'm an ADHDer myself. I'm the founder of Focus Bear and also one of the hosts of this podcast. I built Focus Bear for myself originally because I was constantly getting distracted by my phone and my laptop. I wanted a way to tame my ADHD monkey mind so I'd stop going down rabbit holes and actually get work done, but also get off my computer and my phone in the evening so I'd be able to sleep properly. It's working perfectly for me and it's helping a lot of ADHDs as well. I'd love for you to try it. It's available for Mac, Windows, iOS and Android, and it leverages most of the productivity strategies we talk about on the podcast. You can jump onto focusbear.io or just Google Focus Bear and try it out. Let me know what you think. Welcome to episode number 81 of the Focus and Chill podcast. We're thrilled to be joined by Jacob Kness today. Jacob is a social entrepreneur, voice, project manager, thinker, and founder in the autism employment space. Jacob applies holistic thinking to support those he serves and does this via his lived experience and self-introspection as to what he wishes he had as a support growing up. Great to have you on the show, Jacob. Jacob and I met at Autistic Pride Day a few months ago, and it was really great to hear you talk back then. One of the things that stood out to me is, unlike some of the other people that we have on the podcast where some of them, including myself, got diagnosed later in life, you got diagnosed quite early on. Do you want to tell us about that journey from when you were quite young?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, pretty much at the age of 5, I had a stroke in my sleep and my diagnosis came after that. From what I understand is I was a pretty normal kid before that. I know there were a few little things I read from like past reports where I didn't crawl. I went straight into walking. Few things that might have been early signs of neurodiversity, but yeah, it wasn't really until the stroke that I really went under the microscope and got diagnosed. So my official diagnosis is Asperger's, ADD, ADHD, infantile epilepsy, and Tourette syndrome. Now, the only ones that really cause me any grief, I've just merged that down now into being ADHD, autistic, and the normal common wording nowadays, and ADHD. From a sense of how I view them, I'd say the only one I view as, say, like a disability has been the Tourette's. The other I view as my difference. And yeah, I've always known I was a little bit different, and not only because I saw it for myself, but because I was literally told by every doctor and everything else in between. Like most people who find out a little bit later in life, I guess my journey came from accepting it because I knew for quite a long time and I fought against it and I argued it.
The acceptance part of it is so important. And it's interesting in terms of when you were saying that the ones that are causing you grief now are the ADHD side of it. Do you feel like some of the other diagnoses that you had as a child that you've developed coping strategies and that they're less of an issue now?
Yeah, so I guess in a weird way I can speak to is I've noticed that a lot of the struggles I have from the ADHD side, which are the pretty stereotypical ones, impulsivity and that sort of thing, are counteracted by the autism. It's this weird interaction between, or internal battle between wanting to be very rigid, but also wanting to create chaos and thrive in that. It's a bit of a balancing act to do that, but yeah, it gives a little bit of a spicy twist to my approach and how I come at life.
Yeah, I can totally relate it. It's a bit weird how the autistic part of me really loves routine and structure. And then the ADHD side almost loves novelty and the absence of structure.
Yeah.
Reining it in can feel a bit hard, finding a happy medium.
Yeah. And as being an entrepreneur and trying to create a life, you really have to be rigid with that, because otherwise you can just never know what you're doing each day, because you can be doing everything but nothing at the same time. Yeah. You got to pick which voice to listen to on the day or each task, and be conscientious of which part of your personality is coming out at each time. And so, yeah, I guess the autism just always a bit of an oversight. But yeah, I'd say the ADHD was more growing up, was what I'd say was probably more the struggle, because that was more of the behavioral stuff that wasn't accepted in school and socially. And yeah, but with the autism and the social stuff, I snuck by. But yeah, my other behaviors were very noticeable.
Did you get a lot of support growing up?
I mean, I don't believe in a self-made man, but no, I found out, I guess what it would have been 2000 if I was around 5. So yeah, there wasn't really the supports around now. Besides my mum, who just luckily happened to be a nurse and have some psychiatric nursing understanding, and my uncle having Parkinson's. I'm pretty sure my mum's ADHD. So there's some understanding there. So that was my main support. But beyond that, no, I'm currently in the process of now getting older and realizing that trying to be a more highly productive person, I need a bit more of a team around that. I haven't had my brain looked at since having the stroke. Like I said, I fought against it, so I neglected that. So I'm trying to build that team for myself now, and really prioritize my health. And I'm doing a few sort of, I guess, out of the box approaches to get that data and see what's really good for me. And I'm really, I sort of make the joke, I'm taking my health autistically now. And I guess where before it was the ADHD that let it just really go try, but now I need to take a bit of a step back. But yeah, so no, overall, and I don't blame anyone for that. It's just the system wasn't set up for it. People had a little understanding, but at the same time, not having the help, not saying it's good because it might be a form of masking, but it made me resilient to just have to adapt. I got kicked out of a lot of schools. By the time I was even in by the time I was in grade 4, it was my 3rd primary school. And it was to the point where the teachers in this school were like, we don't know if we can handle you. So it was either adapt or go to a special development school. And this one teacher, again, like the one person story, it really made an impact. Her son happened to be, I'd say, ADHD behavioral stuff. And she was studying psychology or psychiatric. And she's like, I will take him on. It'll be my core responsibility. That sort of thing, God said. But before then, my behavior was just, I got along with no teachers, nothing like that. And yeah, that's where things really changed and started adapting socially.
Yeah, wow. It sounds like that was a really pivotal influence in your life at that point.
Yeah, both those figures were. And I think for quite a few, it's probably not an unfamiliar story having those key people in our lives. I don't think many of the community have too many great teachers that they connect with and that sort of thing. I just really stress that importance. And I saw that same teacher a few years ago, and she burst into tears and that sort of thing. So that's quite a special moment. So it's not the support in the way most people would have got them, but I don't want to say I didn't have support.
When you were talking about now taking your health more autistically, I love that. I'm curious about now that you're talking about, say, ADHD, and potentially, from my perspective, you seem to be leaning into a lot of the strengths of those different neurotypes. Does that correlate with more acceptance of yourself? Would, say, 10 years ago, did you have acceptance around your brain?
No, I never made it through school. I left at the end of year 9 and I became a baker and patisserie chef. I was originally thinking I was going to go do carpentry, because I guess really all I realized I was somewhat good at is things like carpentry in school, the more hands-on stuff, just because of what I was interested in. I got an A in graphics, but I didn't listen to any of the work until there was one project that A was based off that I really liked. And so I guess being told that you're different and you're broken and you're dumb, basically. No, I didn't have that. And I was quite overweight. I took none of it. Yeah. I didn't take care of myself. So I didn't really start sort of making those pivotal changes consciously until I was around 20.
And was there something that led to that, or just a gradual evolution?
Well, being the hyperactive kid, I wasn't really allowed sugars and sweets and stuff like that. I then became a baker, whereas my job is now make sugars and sweets and stuff like that. So you can imagine what that and lack of impulsivity and lack of restraint did to me. And I got a little bit more overweight. You get to this point in life where you have to change. And I just knew something happened, and I got into the gym. I tried a few years early when I was in school with my friend, but they didn't let us do the big kid gym stuff. I just forgot about it. And I just started one day. I just got fed up. I got sick of being the fat kid and my friends being able to give me crap. And now I'm the biggest out of all of them. And Dave was a dude.
Nice. Now you can arm wrestle them into submission.
That's it. I'm the closest one to having a six pack. So who's fat now?
Love it.
But, I don't blame him for that. I don't look at I look at that as it's a form of bullying, but I know if they didn't push me, I come from a good attention spot. I may have never done it. So I can't blame that again.
Yeah, it's difficult in high school. I feel that a lot of it felt like borderline bullying, just constant one-upmanship.
Yeah. I was all of that. Not only was I different, I was a redhead and I was fat. If I didn't have a little bit of oomph behind me and some friends and whatever, and more my social skills, I always adapted and I was friends with the older kids and stuff. If it wasn't for, I guess, having some social rep, I probably would have been a bully's best friend. But yeah, so it's hard. It's unfortunate that we all feel that we've had that experience to some degree.
Yeah, definitely. Now, before we started recording, you were telling us about Clifton strengths, and I was really keen to hear about that in terms of the process you follow to identify the foundational strengths?
Yeah. Looking at you, I guess you approached this question just before, where you sort of mentioned about leaning into my traits. So I'm going to come at it from the beginning. During school, I was the class clown, but I was always also the class captain. I took lead in a lot of things, even though I never stood up to take lead. And I guess even when I got into the workplace, everywhere I went, I've fallen into management or leadership positions of some sense. I then started managing for Coles, and I did my first training sort of session with them, the development team. And I did an assessment on what kind of leader you are and where your traits drive from, for a little bit of a different angle than the Clifton strengths. So that gave me my initial understanding of, okay, I knew that my brain I've got these two sort of different parts of me, but also without that, just our normal DNA, our normal strengths, which a Clifton strengths book calls your strengths DNA. Now, we use the Clifton strengths book in all of the employment support programs we run at Asperger's Victoria and that I oversee. And we do that because quite often the younger cohort of our community, they don't realize how much talent and strengths and skills they do have and how much value our atypical ways of being are valuable in the right sort of places. And not only that, it just gives them a bit of a sense of feeling like they have strengths and they can come at the whole transition into work more confidently. So yeah, for example, some of my core strengths in this strengths DNA is my top one is significance. Now, I did this test as I got into entrepreneurship and started being a social entrepreneur working towards projects of significance. But I made that pivot and doing that. Now I found this out about myself afterwards. I'm like, okay, that makes sense why I'm so driven towards that. That is my key thing that I look for. So even in the workplace now, and I was to talk to that to an employer, I can say, if you don't keep me on projects of significance, you are going to lose my hyper focus, my productivity, and you are not going to get the best of me. Right now, I have a report to give and show them that. Another one of my strengths is at the top is individualization. There was another one, strategic. So it gives you these sort of core things that we all know. There's like empathy, and it's derived from sort of 4 key areas, and it lets you understand: are you an executive, like an executing kind of person, an influencer? Are you a relationships person, or are you like an analytical person? It really helps you just frame yourself in, but okay, this is where I should position myself. And yeah, so I guess it's just been good I found out this stuff about myself in trying to manage all my neurodiversity, and then having the data to show that was really exciting. But for me to be able to show that to people who haven't had any of that introspection yet, I think is really powerful for their confidence, and why I really push it in the program. Sorry if that's a little bit long to explain, but.
No, that's great. There's a lot of good details in there, Jacob. Thank you. Could you say a little bit more about projects of significance and what makes a project significant to you?
That's a good question.
Oh,
okay. So being a social entrepreneur, I've set up businesses that its goal isn't to make money. Its goal is to not make a loss while creating employment for the autistic community. I guess that's what I mean by significance, is like, what are the outcomes and the intentions behind the business? So I guess everything I do it's people based. The work I do with the autistic community, before I started working on the autistic employment problem, I was looking at the employment problem to environmental and humanitarian care projects and how to reduce that. I've always loved nature, the world, the things, and being like, why are we ruining it? And yeah, I don't know. I just got so frustrated that I was like, I can't have an opinion about this or be so strung up about it and talk about it and not have any skin in the game sort of thing. So I've just then the COVID hit and that was really my entrepreneurial thing. It gave me the time to go down these paths and explore that. And so I guess significance is just return on investment or intention or just, I don't know, for the right reasons. Business and how we do things doesn't need to just be for the sake of making profit. Let's just be paid by merit. So just pay everyone a fair wage based on if you're the best of the best. Yes, you deserve to be paid the best of the best because we need the best of the best for that. But it's not just like everyone just sucking in funds here and all that just stuff that's just ruins people's faith in our enterprises and the structures we set up. It just really frustrates me. If I maybe stuck in school and went down the academic route, I probably would have been a corporate lawyer or something. Who knows? But yeah, it's just my frustrations drive me really. And my belief that things can be different. And that's one of my Clifton strengths is belief. And I really just drive with that. And when I'm doing that, I don't try and prove myself right with my thoughts. I try and prove myself wrong because often if I'm working on it, it's not because it's a problem that's solved, So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
I think it does. I'll just run by what I understand of it. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. Because this is the first time I've heard of the idea of projects of significance and it sounds really lovely. So it's the ability to connect what you're doing to your deep values. For example, if my value is like kindness, then I'm in this spreadsheet at the moment and I got to manage this spreadsheet. And it's just, if I didn't connect it with, okay, if I make sure that the data in the spreadsheet is like really accurate, then it potentially helps all these people that I work with or all these people that are my customers and they'll have a better life. Is that kind of the idea of just being able to connect something that's abstract? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Even I guess being a natural leader, even though it's big-headed to say out loud, I know I was always driven by working hard for my team, not for the jobs. I was a Coles bakery manager. They didn't pay me what the hours I was working, all those sort of things. I did extra, I busted, but I did that for the team because they did it too. I guess I understood about myself. It's like where and why I work. I always did that. It's because of the team element, not because of the job itself. So then I went, okay, apply that. And then I guess just me going into the entrepreneurial thing, into working with the autistic community, then being able to apply my lived experiences to help them and then all these sort of things and go, hey, there is a life leaning into my experience and helping people through that. And then, one thing just sort of led to another. So I guess one thing is I fell into the projects of significance before I realized that was my thing. But now going forward, I know that when I'm trying to harness my neurodiverse skill set and my hyper-focus and all those things, with significance being my key foundation, like you just stated, or the way I'll word it, if it's a spreadsheet where I'm just putting in data to track data, that's a grind. My brain will just blow up. But writing the reports for my programs and like writing things for those I work for and speaking to the people I work for, I'll write you a novel. And so it's a different thing. I guess the way I looked at it is, or the way I've seen it now is, it's much easier leaning in towards those things and trying to be authentic. And I've thrown myself into many different situations, such as this podcast, but leaning on them and that and all those things just allows me to understand how I'm approaching them. And even the way I talk, I'm talking from that, or, I try and, so it just gives you a framework to better guide yourself.
Yeah, that's awesome, Jacob. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about that Asperger's Victoria employment program.
Yeah, Asperger's Victoria, I'm going to come at that a different way. At Asperger's Victoria, I am their employment projects manager. So I oversee a range of different employment supports, but my bread and butter, I guess, program and the one that we're well known for is called our Teens Work Know-How program. And that's funded by an ILC grant through the NDIA. Now, what that program is in place to do is Asperger's Victoria, or now known as AV, as we are rebranding, removing that Asperger's name for all the apparent reasons. So what AV realized prior to COVID, when they applied for this grant, is students in school weren't, or the autistic students in school, to be more specific, weren't getting the same work experience like opportunities that all the, say, neurotypical students were getting. because of the obvious social factors of going out and getting that, and in the family dynamics of they may have some accessibility issues, and whatever the reasons are, there's a multitude of a spectrum of issues. What AV did is they went out, tried to get a grant to say, hey, there's this gap, we believe we can fill that. And they created the Teams Work Know How program. And I took over that about a year and a half ago. And I like to believe I've been doing really good things with it. I've put through becoming on like close to 50 kids through this program now. And yeah, we give them workshops. So I just ran a couple this week, resume writing 1 and 2, which pretty much gives them the know and the how of to form their resume. And yeah, I bring together facilitators and just all these stakeholders, make sure they're inclusive, they understand autism. And then I place them into these stakeholders. We call them our host employers. One of our really well-known ones, which we've been with from the start, is ANZ Bank. And that's within the program I'm running now. I'm about to send 6 or 7 students into ANZ Bank to do their placement in a couple of months once they've done the remaining the workshops and gotten those skills. And yeah, so it gives them again confidence. And we're not reinventing the wheel. It's just explaining why the wheel works and how it works, which I think is what we often missed in school, the significance, right? That's what I explained to them, the significance of why they're doing the things they're doing.
Yeah, sounds really powerful and very much needed. I believe you also have a few other work projects that you do as well.
Yes, I suppose I've mentioned in passing my being a social entrepreneur, and that's not because of the work I do at AV. Although really, I look at being a social entrepreneur as just being a social problem solver. So I guess I do that for AV, but no. So the other enterprises that you're speaking to are my social enterprise donut shop, Doughnuts, that's where my whole social entrepreneurship journey began. Basically, I started out when I left Coles just before COVID came around. It was about a few months gap there. I moved into support work, which I was just going to do passively while I was working on that environmental stuff I spoke about earlier. But then as I got into support work and obviously being passionate and realizing the frustrations, one of my key roles would be to find my client employment, as finding and keeping a job. Now I could just apply for some jobs, get them an interview, but knowing as soon as I put them in there, they're not going to be able to speak for themselves. All the things, the holistic supports weren't there. So I really just took this backwards approach, and with my bakery background, I went, okay, what's something easier I can do? So yeah, I created the donut shop. It's seriously as easy as mixing. I make it as easy as mixing a premix that you do at home. They all know how to mix the dough. There's nothing dangerous. The donuts are conveyor belt. They don't even need to touch, go near the oil, right? All they need to do, the donut is just a delicious medium of exchange. And the reason for that is this autism thing is a social thing, but by its definition. I go, okay, I know that a large part of my social development came through being in hospitality and in that forced environment where I had to serve the customers and everything. So it was incentivized uncomfortability, incentivized by money. So I went, okay, let's put all those things together. What did I get out of it? And I used to get out of bed for $7 an hour as a baker, and I knew I can pay them more than that. I'm like, okay, how do we get them out of bed? How do we get them motivated? I made sure with the pilots, paid them well above fair wage for what they'd get within what they're valued at and all that. And yeah, I was able to keep my clients employed for all the metrics that the DES people look for, the 3-month, the 6-month sort of retention. Yeah. And then I found out I fell into the social entrepreneurship. I created the social enterprise before I even knew what a social enterprise was. So again, it's just running with my beliefs that I can do something different and that you just got to think a little bit out of the box.
Awesome. It's so powerful to hear about that.
Thanks.
When you're not working for Going Nuts or AV, what do you like doing in your spare time? What are your hobbies?
To be honest, lately I don't have a lot of downtime, but main thing is a gym. Yeah, just spending time with friends. I do a bit of video gaming. Fortnite's the main one I play just because I play with a group of friends sort of thing. I used to be Call of Duty and Halo before that. It's always been those style of games. So there's always that part of me. But again, the autistic part of me tries to rein that back in because I really can get stuck into that because I love it. But yeah, other things, gym, self-development. Yeah, just listen to podcasts. Just until recently where I just moved, I was living down in Mount Martha for most of sort of COVID. And I had a bit more downtime back then because I wasn't running as many enterprises and working for AV and stuff. And back then I used to do cold shock most days. I was doing yoga, all those things, trying to meditate.
Nice. By cold shock, you mean go and jump into the ocean at
Yeah.
Mount Martha? Nice.
Yeah. So I moved in April. Never started the cold shock thing before. And I was like, all right, let's go. Moved down there for that reason. I moved down there and people are going to be like, how did you live in Mount Martha and not work many days a week? It's expensive. There's a weird story to that. I actually put out a post on Facebook, being like, I'm a baker. I got all these skills in the kitchen. Like I'm clean. I pretty much offered myself up as a butler. People have a lot of houses on the peninsula that they don't use. I can keep the house safe, do the gardening. One of the businesses in my enterprise is I piloted a gardening business. So I know how to do that. So yeah, I put that ad out. I end up in the Herald Sun 2 days later, page 3, which is really awkward. Then I had one person buy it and ended up moving down to Mount Martha, only really just being a bit of social support and a house and dog sitter while this bloke named Joe would go off and travel. So yeah, I lived down there for a few years working for my stay. And yeah, it allowed me the space to really focus that part of myself development in while I was trying to do the entrepreneurial thing. Cause I always knew that once I really get stuck into something, which I did with Coles and the bakery, independent baking before then. And yeah, I get really into it. So I just really took that time while the world was in chaos to try and understand and make some sense of it.
Amazing.
Yeah. Jacob, could you say more about how you keep the video games at bay? Because that's something that I know I struggle with, especially when you mentioned Fortnite. That can be tricky to rein in sometimes. Could you say more about how you stay focused?
It's a little bit of, I guess I set so much stuff up in my day that I don't really allow too much time for it. So I really do schedule about 2 hours to spend I live with my best mate and to spend with friends or whatever. They'll come over with my other best friend will come over my game. So I'm really trying to actually structure that time for my friends. But besides that, I guess it's just being so busy that I don't. And that autistic part of me, which is kind of OCD, I don't like mess. So if I see the mess in the kitchen, I can't avoid that. Even if I avoid it and started playing the game, I can't avoid it. So I'd have to get up. So for me to really sit down and play the game, I have to really get everything done, because for me, my main principle that I always just have run by is productivity and proactivity. It doesn't matter how my day's going, if I'm having a low day or whatever, I just try and be productive. And I guess that framework just doesn't really allow for much unstructured rest. And when I do have that unstructured rest, I feel weird. It's not planned. You're like, I stuck away to the day. I just did this. And yeah, I put a few things into frame and just try and structure what's important to me, and then just really pivot. Because in my role as a project manager, things change all the time. I worked till 6:30 last night. So by the time you do dinner, you do whatever else, there isn't much time for gaming. And I'm not going to do that first thing in the morning, because that would just take away all focus and framework and stuff. So yeah, I guess it's just, I make things hard for myself to enjoy. I never allow myself too much comfortability, and I actively keep it at bay. Like the cold shock thing, I actively make myself uncomfortable to be. So yeah, I've always understood that I have impulse things. My mum always told me, so I always just kept that front and center.
That makes a lot of sense. I think it's similar to, I have this thing that I try to follow where if I start getting anxious about something, I basically tell myself, okay, being anxious about it right now isn't going to help you. Like at 6 p.m., when you finish all your work, have a good 20 minutes to worry about it. Become the best warrior, like the warrior that you can. And it's almost like structuring like that worry time, or structuring like the downtime allows you to just basically compartmentalize things and be totally focused. Is that what it does for you as well?
Yeah, pretty much, because I have to compartmentalize things, and that pivots day by day with my role. If I didn't have that sort of filtering system, well, I'd be all over the place, because one day I can finish at 9 o'clock after a career network, 6 o'clock, 3. It is literally just where the work needs me to be and what the community needs of me. So yeah, I guess it's just being in the work I do, putting myself in these positions where I don't know, I just keep the control.
Yeah, that makes sense. Could you say a little bit about productivity advice that's out there that perhaps hasn't worked for you?
All right, this might be controversial for us. There's no such thing as work-life balance. If you're working towards your true, I believe, as the neurodiverse community, if we are really running towards our authentic self, there is no work-life balance. But when you're doing it, it doesn't feel like work. So it's like people tell me to work-life balance. I've found more balance through trying to be the person I need to be to handle my work than I have trying to be the person to handle myself. If I wasn't in service of other people through my work, I wouldn't try and make myself. There's no point trying to train to be a warrior if there's nothing to fight for. You might as well be a monk. Does that, in a weird way, answer? Maybe you can frame me back in a bit. I feel like.
Can I dig into that a bit more, James? Because I think I can relate to that. I guess work becomes one of my special interests, and it feels very easy to really immerse myself in the work world. But I'm curious about how you then balance that with the cold shock and yoga and going to the gym, because that for me is part of the balance and part of the idea of being long-term productive, that it's very easy for me to just sacrifice myself on short-term productivity, and maybe I get a lot done for a week, but then I'm burnt out for a month. So how do you deal with that?
I guess, as I stated, when I was doing the cold shock, I wasn't as busy. Now I'm quite busy. To be honest, I don't keep up with it as much. I need to. Now is when I probably should be doing it more. And I am going to, because I recently moved, I will set it back up again soon. I'm going to start doing that because I can feel the difference. But yeah, so I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm perfect every day, but I've tried so many different things, whether it's yoga in the morning, cold shock and yoga, everything, carnivore, diets, these things, fasting. And I guess it's a few things. Being in project management, it's basically task management. So I know if I get into my state of hyper focus and I'm in the right state and setting, I can get 10x what I can get done if I'm not in that state and setting. But I also know that's not always like it. Our energy and our emotions are pretty fluid. So I just learned to ride them the same as I would my internal emotions from my Tourette, just feel it out. So I guess what I'm saying is, since I've been in I'm going to cover, because we've touched on it before. For me, working on my passion projects, I created the work for myself. But in the time of creating the work for myself and knowing that I'm not working just to make a profit and realizing what I was doing to make purpose, I really took a step back and I purposely taken the long route with a lot of what I've done. But that's also to develop into the person I could be to manage that, because I knew, like, I'm a baker, I'm a high school dropout, and some of the stuff I'm talking about doing has almost got people trying to push me into politics. Yeah, I knew if I went too fast, I would just end in a burnt out spiral. And recently I was working 7 days a week for the last of us, and I found just being able to work with my energies and my body and what is authentically me, and then framing that work around that. And again, working on significance when I do get into those projects, because it's significant, it's easy for me to dive into. So it's like I've just structured all these elements. And so say, for example, today, if I needed a day for my mental health and stuff, or just it was a burnt out day, whether it was a day working for myself or working for AV, I could take that time, because even my general manager at AV knows that when I'm in good state, and that I will catch up on anything I've done. Not only that, I'm ahead of most of what I'm doing anyway. So it's this thing where it's like, by doing that, I'll be ahead in areas here, but you might fall back here. But then when you get in, and it is really organized chaos, and just being consistent and just keep trying it. And if things are good for you, actively try doing more of them than things that aren't. It's easier said than done, though.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And I experienced that myself. I don't know whether I'm 10 times more productive, but definitely multiple times compared to when I'm in an exhausted state. I like that idea of taking a mental health day if you need it. So much so that we're going to take a mental health break for 2 minutes. We'll be back to you in a bit.
Hi there, Focus and Chillers. Are you ready to supercharge your knowledge in the realms of creativity, tech, and psychology? Come check out my fortnightly newsletter. In each edition, you'll get quick wins and actionable takeaways that you can put into practice right away. If this sounds like you, I'd love to have you as a reader. Subscribe for your fortnightly dose of insights. The link is in the show notes. And now, let's get back to the show.
All right, we're back from our break, and we're going to hear a little bit about your morning routine these days. What does it look like at the moment?
At the moment, I've got a cat, and my housemate is currently without a car. So my morning routine, not as structured in the way of my routine they would have liked. But this morning, for example, I was woken up at 4 a.m. I just, woke up. Naturally, I generally don't eat breakfast. I'll go to gym and then come home from gym, have my first sort of meal and that. So gym in the morning is my non-negotiable. I did that today. But generally, when I do have more of my time, like I said before, with some of the other things I used to do with cold shock and yoga and that, I generally have about a 2-hour routine for myself in the morning. Other moments that could be where I do some creative writing, because I often find myself quite creative in the morning, especially if I've got something that's really on the back of my mind. I try and do those sort of things, try and get things out before I fill it back up. And if I don't get a chance to do the sort of gym thing or wake up early, I just make sure I sleep in, because on average, I say most of my working life, as far as I can remember, I've only really averaged 6 to 6.5 hours sleep. I think, yeah, I can manage off that. If I get 9, I'll feel like a superhuman, but that really only happens maybe once a week or once a fortnight sort of thing. So yeah, I've always struggled with sleep. I've always been an active sleeper. My mind's quite active as well. Some of the things that helped is calming music, a few breath, I get sequences to bring down my central nervous system and stuff. Real common stuff that, you find online. Sometimes I find non-sleep rest really quite recharging. I think it was something, having a nap for our community a few times a day might actually be like a secret weapon for some of us. Yeah, just to quiet it down and bring us back into focus. Because sometimes it's hard to meditate. I don't know if you guys find it hard, but where I try not to just feel like I need to keep quiet, I'm just like, how do I bring some peace back?
Yeah. And for me, what you were saying around dumping the thoughts out through creative writing is probably the best way for me. And then I can be a bit calmer after that. We were going to ask about your evening routine as well, and you've already shared some things there. Is there anything else that you do before you wind down to sleep?
Not really. I don't watch TV in my bed much. I do have one there, but I don't use it. Generally, I only allow myself about 2 hours of entertainment in general in the evenings. So yeah, because by the time my day's antics are done, 7, 8 o'clock, and then I've got very little time in between. So just, sit down, watch a bit of movie, respond to people, my friends on Facebook or whatever. I wouldn't say my nighttime routine is just good as my morning routine. Let's just put it that way. I think I put so much into the start of my day that, I'm going there, I was like, all right, I just want to veg. But yeah, when I have been better and been more conscious, again, it was things like breathing. I'd try and do some cardio back at the gym at night. There have been times where I trained twice a day and do a few things like sauna. Just things that are also proactive to the other things I do. Having a bath, it just relaxes from my muscles, not just my mind. I often try and get a few things out of stuff. So I'll go for a walk where there's no reception and then just write notes on my phone and then just, again, get that out of my mind so I can sleep. It's really just whatever my mind's needing. If you're conscious of it, you're listening to it. Yeah. But I finish time with my housemate because I live with him, so there's no escaping it. So just, yeah.
Awesome. And if people want to connect with you, where's the best place to find you online?
I'm on pretty much everything. I'd say Jacob Allen on LinkedIn or Jacob Allen Kness. Find me as Jacob, whichever, it'll come up. If you want to get in touch with me through the stuff I do at Asperger Victoria, you can do that through the Asperger Victoria website and clicking on their employments area. My email will be in every section of that. You can email me at jacob.allen.business@gmail.com for the most direct. But yeah, really LinkedIn, Facebook, Jacob Allen, they're probably some of the best ways. I do have Twitter and stuff and a few other social medias that I try to be more engaged with. Where people try and reach to me, I'll try and reach to them. So I'm pretty easy to contact. I don't make it hard. Or you can come see me at the Acuna Park Market, buy some delicious donuts. And yeah, I'll be able to chat too much. I'll be selling donuts. I'll give you a business card. Yeah, I always try and make time for a bit of a chit chat and getting to know my customers. So yeah, if you go looking for me, you'll find me and I'll make it easy.
Wonderful, Jacob. Do you have any final words or ask for our audience?
I wish I thought of this one a bit more. There's so many.
You can just say whatever's on your mind. If you don't like, we can always edit it out later.
Yeah. I guess I'm just going to say, stop fighting the change. Yeah. Be authentic. Really start to have some introspection. And yeah, once you do that, it just makes it a little bit, not saying it solves all the problems or you might find out more. Knowledge is power and how you handle it. So sometimes people find out stuff about themselves. It's hard, but I think with keeping the right mental frameworks and stuff, just embrace change a bit, get more comfortable doing the uncomfortable. And first step, just do something good. My first step was gym. If I didn't get into the gym, we spoke about this earlier, I would not be here. I can say that.
Okay, wonderful. We'll wrap the show with that.
Thank you. It's been great.
Yeah, thanks, Jacob.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Focus and Chill podcast. To listen to other episodes, jump onto podcast.focusbear.io. If you'd like to be a guest on the show or you know someone who'd be a good fit, email us at team@focusbear.io. Otherwise, stay focused, stay chilled, and peace out.